A female CEO mocked a single dad and took his VIP seat. Moments later, everyone was stunned. The entire first-class cabin fell silent when the elegant woman in a pink designer suit pointed at the tired-looking single father and ordered him to leave the VIP seat. Passengers turned their heads. Flight attendants froze. The man stood there holding a worn travel bag and a boarding pass, his face marked by exhaustion rather than anger. What happened next would leave everyone on that plane speechless. Before we begin, if you believe kindness matters more than appearances and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to Bright Heart for more emotional and uplifting stories. The man's name was Daniel Carter. At 38 years old, life had already tested him more than most people could imagine. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Emily, after a long battle with a rare illness. Overnight, he became both father and mother to his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Since then, every day had been a struggle between paying bills, working long hours, helping with homework, and trying to keep a smile on his daughter's face even when his own heart was breaking. That morning had started before sunrise. Daniel had barely slept. Lily was staying with her grandmother while he traveled to another city for an important business conference. The trip represented a rare opportunity. If things went well, he could secure funding for a community education project he had spent years building. The project aimed to provide free tutoring and technology access to children from struggling families. Daniel believed no child should lose opportunities simply because they were born into difficult circumstances. His clothes were neat but simple. His jacket had been worn for years. His shoes showed signs of constant use. Nothing about him looked wealthy or important. As he entered the aircraft and located his seat in the VIP section, he quietly placed his bag overhead and sat down. For the first time that day, he relaxed. A few moments later, a woman boarded the plane surrounded by attention. Her name was Victoria Hayes, the CEO of a rapidly growing technology company. Business magazines regularly featured her success stories. Employees admired her intelligence, but many also feared her arrogance. Victoria walked confidently through the aisle until she reached Daniel's row. Her expression changed immediately. She looked him up and down. Her eyes lingered on his old jacket and travel bag. Without checking her own ticket carefully, she assumed there had been a mistake. In her mind, someone who looked like Daniel did not belong in first class. The passengers nearby watched as she confronted him. Her voice carried through the cabin. She questioned whether he was sitting in the correct seat. She implied that economy class was probably where he belonged. Several travelers exchanged uncomfortable glances. Daniel calmly showed his boarding pass. But Victoria refused to accept it. Convinced that the seat should be hers, she continued drawing attention to him. Her words became sharper. She spoke as though success could be measured by expensive clothing and luxury accessories. Daniel could have argued. Instead, he remained calm. Years of raising Lily alone had taught him patience. Life had humbled him in ways that made small insults seem insignificant. Yet deep inside, the embarrassment hurt. Not because strangers were watching, but because he knew people like Victoria represented a painful reality. Too many individuals judged others before learning their stories. The flight attendants soon arrived to resolve the situation. After reviewing both boarding passes, they confirmed that Daniel was indeed assigned to the VIP seat. Victoria had mistakenly approached the wrong row. An awkward silence filled the cabin. Many passengers expected her to apologize. Instead, she simply rolled her eyes and moved to her own seat nearby. The aircraft took off. Outside the windows, clouds stretched endlessly across the sky. Inside, tension remained. Daniel opened his laptop and began reviewing presentation materials for the conference. Victoria noticed charts, proposals, and financial documents on his screen. For the first time, curiosity replaced judgment. Still, she dismissed him as a small business owner chasing unrealistic dreams. Several hours into the flight, unexpected turbulence struck. The plane shook violently. Overhead compartments rattled. Passengers gripped armrests. Fear spread throughout the cabin. During the turbulence, an elderly passenger collapsed a few rows behind Daniel. Panic erupted. Flight attendants rushed over, but the man appeared unconscious. Without hesitation, Daniel jumped from his seat. Years earlier, before becoming an educator, he had trained as an emergency medical technician. Though he no longer worked in that field, the skills never left him. He carefully assessed the situation. The cabin watched nervously. Victoria watched too. Daniel remained focused and calm. He checked the man's breathing, monitored his pulse, and guided the crew through emergency procedures until the passenger gradually regained consciousness. Relief swept across the aircraft. Passengers applauded. Several people thanked him personally. For the first time since boarding, Victoria looked at Daniel differently. The men she had mocked moments earlier had just helped save someone's life. But the biggest surprise was still coming. Later in the flight, one of the conference organizers happened to be on board. Recognizing Daniel, he approached enthusiastically. The conversation quickly attracted attention. Passengers learned that Daniel wasn't simply attending the conference. He was the keynote speaker. Even more astonishing, the education initiative he had founded had already helped thousands of children gain access to scholarships, computers, tutoring programs, and mentoring opportunities. Major investors were gathering specifically to hear his presentation. The organizer praised Daniel's work and described how countless families had been transformed by his efforts. The cabin grew quiet. People who had barely noticed him before suddenly listened with admiration. Victoria felt her stomach tighten. Everything she had assumed was wrong. The men she judged by appearance had dedicated his life to helping others. While she had spent years building profits and expanding corporate influence, Daniel had spent years changing lives. The realization was painful. As the flight continued, Victoria found herself thinking about her own journey. She remembered growing up in poverty. She remembered being underestimated. She remembered promising herself that if she ever became successful, she would never forget where she came from. Somewhere along the way, she had forgotten. Success had slowly replaced empathy. Achievement had overshadowed humility. The woman staring out the airplane window was beginning to see a version of herself she no longer liked. When the plane finally landed, passengers gathered their belongings. Many approached Daniel to shake his hand. Others thanked him for helping the elderly passenger. Several parents thanked him for supporting children through his educational programs. Victoria remained seated. She watched quietly. Then she stood and walked toward him. For the first time, there was no confidence in her expression. Only sincerity. She offered a genuine apology. Not because she had been embarrassed. Not because others were watching. But because she finally understood the damage caused by judging people based on appearances. Daniel listened. Then he smiled. The same kindness that had carried him through grief, hardship, and loneliness appeared once again. He accepted the apology without resentment. Because he knew something many people never learn. Everyone makes mistakes. The important thing is what happens afterward. As they exited the aircraft, Victoria made a decision. In the months that followed, her company became one of the largest supporters of Daniel's education initiative. Together, they expanded programs into underserved communities across the country. Thousands more children gained opportunities they otherwise would never have received. A moment that began with humiliation eventually transformed into hope for countless families. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all. Sometimes the people we overlook carry the biggest hearts. Sometimes the individuals who appear ordinary are quietly accomplishing extraordinary things. And sometimes one act of kindness can change not only a person's future but also the future of everyone connected to them. Before we reach the end, I have a special request for you. Comment below with the words, "Kindness sees beyond appearances," if you believe people should be judged by their character, not their clothes or status. As Daniel walked out of the airport that evening, his phone rang. It was Lily. Her excited voice filled his heart with warmth. He smiled as he listened to her tell stories about her day. In that moment, awards, recognition, and business opportunities meant very little. What mattered most was knowing that despite every challenge life had thrown at him, he had remained the kind of person his daughter could look up to. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or reminded you never to judge someone by their appearance, please like this video, share it with friends and family, leave a comment, and subscribe to Bright Heart. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful stories of kindness, hope, and second chances. Because sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones the world almost overlooks.